it's what do you think is fun?
Oh, wow. A simple yet deep question.
Mm.
I don't know. I think what's fun is just hmm, I don't know, like finding fulfillment in life, honestly. That's pretty fun to me. Just fulfillment and enjoyment with your everyday daily life. I find that very enjoyable and fun. So whatever that may be, it could be anything, like just playing guitar or riding your bike or walking your dog. I don't know. That's kind of like a very simple yet loaded question, and I suppose you could have a simple yet loaded philosophical answer at the same time. But
Yeah, yeah. There's it does make you think though, like how do you, often people, and there's a real focus I think nowadays on sort of delayed gratification, and there's something I've heard a few people talk about now, is this idea that obviously there's this kind of thing where you have to think about, okay, how much am I willing to sort of sacrifice now to then enjoy later? Am I willing to put in the hours now on something that maybe isn't as fun as I want it to be? I think simple things like just saving money, right? To then enjoy it later. But then I feel like I've heard a few people say recently, it's like the time you want, for example, money the most, and the time you want to enjoy stuff the most is when you're young, right? Like it's when you want to be going and exploring the world and going and meeting people and whatever. And then as you get older, you settle down, whatever, maybe you don't, I don't know, obviously I'm saying this at the ripe old age of 25, like
yeah.
But this is from, I'm just recording this for other people, to be fair, and
Mhm.
I don't know where to find that balance between enjoying myself, like it's a Saturday night tonight, for anyone listening that when it's not Saturday, so I could go out tonight and get absolutely hammered and have a great time, but then
Mhm.
I'll feel awful tomorrow, I won't get stuff done, I'll spend a lot of money, and it's like, where's my, how do you find that balance? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a tricky thing, I guess. And I guess it all depends, I guess, where you are in life too. Everyone's situations can be different. And yeah, I guess it just depends what your what you're valuing in life.
That'll be me
At that,
later.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what you're valuing in life at that moment in time or at that period in your life. I mean, when, maybe when you're younger, 20, 21, 22, yeah, you want to go out and party because that's what you do when you're that age. Or, you could also just be in your room practicing guitar, and then maybe a few years later, you're really good at guitar and join a band and do fun stuff or whatever. But I don't know. It's such a tricky thing because it's like, I don't know, like, what are you like, where are you trying to get, like, and I guess you just gotta kind of do whatever it is you need to do to get there. But it's also sounds like it's good to just let loose and like not worry about the grind, if you will. This thing that it seems we're all pressured to like work hard and grind and do all this stuff, but it's really nice to just. I think it's important to just kind of just take a step back sometimes and just turn your mind off, not in a like a ignorant fashion, but in a like a healthy, like just chill out fashion, and that can be going out for a night in the town, or it could just be hanging out watching movies all day, getting stoned, like, um, yeah, I think that's the kind of balance, the balance between working hard towards where you see yourself and where you're supposed to go in life, and just taking time to chill out and process and digest everything that's going on in your life.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of teetering on that balance, and every now and again
Yeah.
dipping one way or the other. I've got more into reading
Yep.
recently, and I feel like that I try and it's something I do in the evening. So whenever I'm tempted to like go out and I don't know, go for a drink, or if I'm tempted to like I don't know, just sit and like eat loads of food and watch a movie or something, like maybe if I'll just sit and read. And if I do that for like half an hour, it gets a bit later and it's like, okay, it's getting too late to go and do anything else now. So I'm trying to
Right.
force myself to just, get used to. I feel like it's so easy to have. There are so many things nowadays that give you that dopamine fix straight away. Like going out for a drink or playing a video game or whatever. You can name your thing. I think I'm trying to train myself out of that now. And trying to train myself to enjoy things. Like I mean, even just as simple as picking up the guitar, it's not as immediately rewarding as a video game or scrolling Instagram, whatever. So I'm trying to like find that balance. But how do you, obviously, so you've been on, how long were you on tour for this last one?
It was about a month.
Yeah. So how do you, obviously from the outside in, tour is it looks incredibly fun and awesome. And, I've never done a month-long tour, so I can't really report. But what do you have moments where it isn't fun, where you're like, oh man, this is tricky, or like, I'm not trying to ask any sort of personal questions to bands and stuff, but like, what do you do? It must feel a bit difficult if you're having a harder time on tour and you're not at home, you've not got your like creature comforts. How do you kind of deal with the more difficult moments when you're doing that?
Yeah, yeah, tour it's of course a lot of fun. The shows are great. Hanging out with friends and partying after the show is all good fun and all that. But it's also, a shit ton of work too, especially at this level for us. We are basically working 12-hour days. We get into the venue at noon, start loading in, start setting up sound checks. We work our own merch too, so we'll be doing that during the show. If something goes wrong, there's troubleshooting. That's honestly probably the most stressful part of tour for me, is like when shit inevitably goes wrong and you got to figure out how to fix it. So, and then sometimes, maybe something in your personal life or someone else in the tour party's personal life like happens, like, it could be like a death in the family, a tragedy, something is going on at home, and you can't do anything about it, because you're out there, on tour, doing your job, doing your thing. Obviously certain situations, like if, a loved one dies, you might have to fly home, or something like that, of course. But, yeah, sometimes things happen at home or elsewhere in life, and, you're there and you're kind of stuck, because if you were to leave, depending on your position in the band too, then the band can't perform. And now you're, not to make it about money, but like putting the band in a huge financial hole, because tour is extremely expensive. Putting, the rest of your bandmates out of work, because if the band's not playing shows, you're not making money, and now you're letting all these other people down, letting fans down, letting everyone involved with your team down. So yeah, like sometimes things like that can happen, and it can be stressful and emotional. But at the same time, like a tour party, if you're fortunate enough to be on a good tour party, like the last one we were on was one of the best tours we've ever done, just because we've all been friends, and we'd all just get along really well. If something happens in someone's life, we you can pick each other up, and there's lots of people, there's lots of friends there to help you through those tough times, while you're maybe want to be at home trying to work something out, but you can't. So that's the nice thing about tour too, is having bandmates and friends that can help you out and pick you up, and be a shoulder to lean on in tough times.
Yeah, I feel like there's something about I don't know, maybe it's almost become a bit of a, not stereotype, but I feel like there's something about the metal community that's very welcoming. When I say stereotype, it's kind of a good stereotype, isn't it? But do you feel like there is something maybe about is this just maybe, do musicians have a tendency, do you think, to stick out for each other in that way? I guess I know it sounds a bit, what's the word? A bit kind of self-important, say us musicians got to look after, you know what I mean? But
Sure, yeah.
I feel like there is an element of musicians knowing they need to look after each other, because it is a kind of, it feels like there's more riding on it maybe as a career than some others. That can sound a bit pretentious, really, I guess, but
maybe, but it's completely accurate at the same time. Yeah, and yes, I agree. Yeah, just because it's hard to see, like fans and other people outside the bands, they really only see us like the 30 minutes we're on stage, or maybe here and there on social media or whatever. But everything that goes on behind the scenes, like you don't really understand that unless you're in a band, or especially in a touring band, unless you're in a touring band. So yeah, there is definitely like a sense of natural camaraderie and brotherhood that comes along with touring. For example, on the last tour we were on, I won't name names or anything, but one of the members of the tour party had a death in the family at home, and he was just, of course, but really bummed out, but he couldn't do anything because he's halfway across the world, on tour. So, but we were able to, be like, help help them whenever whatever way we can. Just cheer them up, talk to them, be like, it's all right, dude. We're here for you. We love you. All that good stuff. And yeah, that's like that sort of camaraderie and companionship that I think only touring musicians would understand, and why, if something does happen, we kind of got each other's backs that way.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's something that, particularly in like kind of heavy music, that kind of level of, I think, because a lot of people find heavy music to be a kind of a retreat, from sort of the real world. Do you feel like that's maybe, again, I don't know if I'm almost sort of not stereotyping, but like, I'm sure there are lots of music communities like that, but I feel like there's a lot, I see it a lot in the metal community. A lot of people kind of, maybe hyper aware of when other people are, for example, upset, because unfortunately there's a lot of, I know there are a lot of people that suffer from sort of mental illness and stuff like that in the metal community. So I guess maybe almost like it being a sort of silver lining in that, because I feel like more people kind of suffer from that. Again, I'm kind of, this is a bit like, not bro science, but I'm kind of just like making a lot of assumptions here. But you know what I mean? Like from my anecdotal kind of experience of it, I guess when you have more of that, then you have more people who understand each other, which is something I feel like I've observed anyway. I don't know if that's something you can relate to. But.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like like you said, I'm sure it exists in other forms of music as well, but particularly in metal, just have been involved in the metal scene and going to metal shows since I was a kid, and just always seeing. It's actually a good analogy would be like, metal shows, there's mosh pits and stuff like that. If someone falls, usually there's like 3, 4, 5 people immediately picking them back up. Like it's like that sense of like, okay, like we got each other here. I guess that would be a great analogy for the metal community. It's like someone falls, there's a bunch of people picking them up. If a band's van flips or they get in a wreck or something like that, they have a GoFundMe, and the community rallies together and can help them get out of that financial hole. You see that happen a lot. And it's a beautiful thing to see. Like, would that happen in electronic music or other forms of music? I don't know, because I don't know those those worlds of music that well, as far as the inner machinations and how interpersonal relationships and things like that. But in metal, it's definitely a thing, and it's super cool that people can find that together in a very aggressive style of music.
Yeah, it's weirdly kind of so when you see all these like people that that are just like the loveliest people, and they're just going around like beating each other up in the mosh pit. It's just great. There's something.
It's great. It's great. I love it. That's one of my favorite things about metal is it's the most aggressive form of music, but it's also like the nicest. You find the nicest people at the same time. It's a great outlet for aggression, and that's why it's awesome.
Yeah, I always get the. It's funny. I was literally chatting to someone today, and I always get the sort of, whenever I tell people that I like heavy metal, they kind of look at me. They're like, "What?" Like, because I don't have any tattoos. I don't have the long hair. I immediately kind of. I've kind of weirdly accepted that I almost look out of place at metal gigs a lot of the time. Like, I'll just turn up in like I'm wearing like a woolly jumper, and I'll just turn up like, looking so out of place. But again, I don't think people care. I remember I walked into there's like a metal bar, sort of the other side of town from where you guys played, and I walked in, and obviously everyone's wearing like leather jackets and like band shirts and stuff. And I walked in, I was wearing, I can't remember where I'd been, but I had quite a nice jacket on. And then I just walked in, a couple of guys looked at me and went, "He must be rich." It's like, I'm just the only guy in here wearing something that isn't a leather jacket, and immediately like, "He must have a lot of money." Not really. Actually, speaking of, it's kind of goes on something that I thought was interesting when I chatted to Dean Lamb a while ago, which actually, funnily enough, I think it was not long before I chatted to you the last time. He was talking about like a lot of metal bands taking themselves quite seriously nowadays. If you go back to like sort of 80s and 90s, or like sort of 80s hair metal and stuff, it's the opposite. They're almost kind of, I guess, they take themselves seriously in their ridiculous persona. Do you feel like maybe there are some metal bands that do sort of take what they do a bit too seriously nowadays, or no?
It's like, I guess it's like a kind of a hard thing, because I feel like, yes, some bands do take themselves very seriously. And some bands don't at all. You know, some bands are just completely silly. Like, I mean, Archspire is a great example. Like they're very silly, but you can tell that they're very serious. That their intentions are serious. You know, with the way they execute their music and can, you know, conduct themselves. You know, they do take it seriously. And I guess it just depends on what the definition of that is. Like, I guess bands that could take themselves too seriously in the sense that they become like sticks in the mud, or like what's a good term, like I don't know, just like up, like have their nose in the air, like uppity, I don't know. So maybe some bands do that, I don't know, but I feel like a lot of bands kind of like also we there's a lot more freedom to just chill out and be yourself and like just have fun, you know, because that's what it should be at the same time. And I feel like it all depends on what the vibe of the band is, you know. Like if, for example, like a band like Sleep Token, if they were to just be, oh haha, we're silly, jokes, like that doesn't really fit their vibe, you know. They're like super mysterious, like dark, like moody, vibey. If they were to just like start posting memes on their socials, that wouldn't really make sense for their vibe, you know. So like I think it all depends on yeah, what the vibe of the band is. And you know, I guess you kind of conduct your behavior according to that, to how you feel the image and persona of the band is supposed to be portrayed.
Yeah, that reminds me of speaking of Sleep Token. I remember, like, you know, so if you, I don't know if you follow them on Instagram, but they
I love that band.
Yeah, they're a really cool
great.
band. And this, for the record, this is not a dig. I just think this is funny. They have quite a particular way of phrasing things, right? They kind of they won't say you get something, like they'll say like acquire merchandise or something like that on there. It's all kind
worship,
of archaic, worship. Yeah, like archaic. Yeah. And then something happened. I can't remember what it was, but like obviously a somewhat complicated situation happened to do with the merch or something, or they couldn't play a venue. I can't remember what it was. So obviously the more complicated the situation gets, you got to figure out how to say that in like Sleep Token speak on Instagram. And I remember just looking at the stories being like, you're putting in so much effort just to figure out how to tell your fans that like you run out of hoodies here. Like, you know, I can't remember what it was. It cracked me up. And like, but yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. Like if they were kind of sharing memes, it might devalue the currency somewhat.
Right, but that's the cool thing. That's the cool thing about that. Not to interrupt you, but that's the cool thing about them is like everything they do is like everything they do. They post, they image, everything is like done with intention. You know, even like letting the fans know that they're out of hoodies. Like they say it the way they're gonna say it. It's not just like, oh hey, we're out of hoodies. It's like they say it in their weird, cryptic, goofy like wording. And that's how it's like a Clown from Slipknot. How I remember like reading something, how he was like, because he was the one, if I recall correctly, that he was the one that was super or mostly in charge of their imaging. I feel like, and branding. Right, I think, yeah. So, and I think I read a quote like even down to their shoelaces that, you know, they would wear on stage or in interviews, like everything was like thought out. Every single aspect of everything that was being portrayed, down to their shoelaces, was important. And I feel like that it's super cool when a band is like fully immersed in that, you know, in what they're portraying as an artist. And yeah, I think it's just like, even like I said, like we just said, letting the fans know that they're out of hoodies, they do it their way, like not just like casually. So everything that they output is art, you know, even a Instagram story. You know,
yeah. Well, what do you make of them kind of blowing up as of late? Because I looked at their monthly listeners. I can have a look at exactly what it is now. I remember it was not far shy of like 2 million.
I think it's over like 25 now, something like that. What is it? 2.5.
1.8 million a month they've got.
Oh, okay.
1.896. 431.
Okay. Okay.
Exact figure. Yeah. What do you make of their whole? Because like that was quite. I had a cool moment of where someone literally yesterday was like, yeah, you told me about them a few years ago, didn't you? I was like, yeah, I knew them before they were cool. Mm-hmm. What do you make of their kind of blowing up?
It's super awesome. Like, I mean, I've been a fan of them since Sundowning came out, was 2018, 2019, somewhere around then. Yeah. And it's just like I always like, and they've been one of my favorite bands since I heard that album, you know, like they've probably been one of my most listened to bands for the past 4 years, you know. And and yeah, they just have a really unique style and sound, and then for it to just explode like that is, I don't know, it's just super cool. And it's super cool to see that happening for like other bands too, like, you know, and like Lorna Shore blowing up, Spirit Box, other bands. Like you just see bands just exploding like these days, and it's just like it's awesome to, because it's kind of like, oh, like anyone can do this, you know. Not anyone will, and not everyone will do it, but it's more of a possibility, you know. Like the barriers to becoming a quote unquote big band isn't like, you know, as they're not, the walls aren't as tall anymore, you know. You just gotta write good music and put it out there and keep doing it, and maybe one day something cool like that will happen. But I mean, like, was their explosion, was it like another TikTok thing? Didn't the summoning kind of blow up on TikTok, or like it was another social media thing?
Yeah, it's definitely, the summoning is the one that like blew up. Yeah, I know Chokehold,
but like they were definitely on their way before that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, because it was crazy. I saw them like a few years ago, and they played a place called The Mill in Birmingham, which is like similar-ish kind of size to the room that you guys played.
I think I'm pretty sure we played there before. Yeah,
I remember actually, because that's when I saw you the first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. So they played there, and then they a few months ago played at the O2 Academy, which I think is about 3,000 headlining. You know, and it's like. In 2 years of like 3 and a bit times their fan base. Crazy to have achieved that. It's mad.
Nuts. Yeah.
But speaking of sharing memes to Instagram stories, since following you for the last year or so, I feel like I've learned more about your personality through the memes on your Instagram story than any conversation. I mean, I know the opening question, it's funny coincidence, was what do you think is fun? But like, what kind of complete left turn conversation wise, but what do you find funny? What are you like, are there like comedians or like shows or things you're drawn to that like make you laugh?
I feel like I like a lot of like just off the wall, just really goofy. I like stuff that's like, I mean, like I put like, I'll reshare a lot of silly things, you know, on my stories and stuff like that. But like, I just like just really goofy, stupid, gross, offensive, borderline as far as you can take it kind of things, humor, you know, stuff like that. I don't know, just like that's something like that. So just always funny. And like, I've always been a big fan of South Park. And I thought one of the coolest things about South Park is how they would take it farther than anyone. Like their goal was to offend you, you know, like, but it's still in a joke form. And it's not in like, it wasn't like, I mean, yeah, they would like, you know, the whole Kanye Gay Fish episode. It's like, yeah, they're obviously making fun of him blatantly, but it's like, it never really felt like a full-on attack, you know. It's not like they're like maliciously attacking anyone. It's like, how far can we take this joke, you know, and just see how far it goes. And a lot of the stuff they've done is crazy. So yeah, anything like just off the wall, witty, offensive stuff like that, I enjoy. I don't know why. Probably just growing up with a group of friends that like have a fucked up sense of humor as well. Yeah, but it's like never anything malicious, you know, like, you know, I you know, never, the goal is to never like hurt anyone or offend. Well, I guess offend some people, yes, but it's like not in a malicious way, you know. It's not like you're like running around like, you know, attacking people. It's just like, wow, that's like crazy and really out there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
That's the best way I could put it.
Some of the like memes and reels I end up sending to my friends, I need to double check that I'm actually tapping them and not just like some other person, because there's friend group A and friend group B, you know, the humor for friend group A and the humor for friend group B. Yeah, I have 2 or 3 friends where like they get all the memes that like I would never, I just like, I would never share publicly, but they make me laugh. I mean, like what was it, South Park, they got in trouble recently for the whole Prince Harry thing. I think they were like mocking all of them relentlessly, and I do like how they kind of just managed to get away with. One thing I've noticed is I feel like British comedy, it used to be such a, with like Monty Python and all, it used to be such a like bastion of comedy, and I feel like it's just kind of, I'm more into US comedians now. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happened over here that, I don't know. The TV shows used to be really funny, and now I feel like they've just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Do you guys get much in the way of like British shows and stuff?
I mean, I know I'm well versed in Monty Python because my dad was a huge fan. So like growing up, he would all that, you know, Flying Circus, all the movies and like all that stuff. So I would always watch that. And that's like, it's probably, I probably get, you know, it's like that shock factor. I guess that's the word I've been hunting for. Shock factor, you know, comedy. Because I feel like, you know, back then a lot of stuff they were doing was like shocking. It's like, whoa, like they said that, you know, like they did that. But it was also just like funny and witty at the same time too, and very clever. You know, it's not like it was just mindless. It was very clever. But as far as other British comedy, no, I don't really know much of anything aside from Honey Python, honestly.
Yeah, there's a really interesting video online of them debating the life of Brian after it's John Cleese and I forgot that Michael Palin, and they're debating with these two I can't remember their names, quite well known at the time, very religious guys. And it's a really interesting ahead of its time kind of conversation between, you know, them trying to explain that they're not trying to offend anyone essentially, you know. It's really interesting. It's funny how well it's aged, that whole conversation. It's an interesting kind of anyway.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, it's a really, I haven't seen that yet.
They're obviously very articulate people, you know, and I think because you could always, if you were to look down on it, you go, oh, it's just silly jokes about this, that, and the other. But then when you listen to someone like John Cleese, he's clearly so well read and very, I mean, I think he's like an Oxford University. I think they all met at one of those, Oxford or Cambridge University, you know. So just, I think there's kind of a lot to be said for them. But there's something, so there's a few things. I was doing the usual like deep dive of your Instagram, and again change of subject, but I just saw one thing where you were, I can't remember which post it was on, but I just picked up on something you wrote down, which was, I mean, word for word, sorry to quote you on your own Instagram post.
Fine.
But you said, to receive, one must be willing to give without expectation. And I thought that was a really cool little, I can't remember, you said that as part of I think you're talking about the tour actually, if you can remember what your own.
Maybe.
Sure
I don't remember.
But I thought that was just a really cool insight into like how maybe you think about things. And I've literally just written that and put expand ? That's my, as far as my notes go. But like, what prompts you to kind of maybe think in that way?
Well, I guess it's to put it in another term, it's like the whole pay it forward concept, you know. But it's like giving without expectation. I forget exactly like where I heard that. It's probably like a Buddhist or Dalai Lama thing that I might have read like a while ago, and then that really resonated with me. And that's probably like a quote from one of those things. But I just think it's you know, you don't always have to keep score in life. You know, it's not like, oh, I did this for you, you owe me something. You know, yes, there is this commerce of relationships with people and things and stuff like that. But, you know, sometimes, you know, if you just do something nice for someone and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, you don't have to, you know, I don't need money. You don't got to do anything for me. It's just like, just doing a nice thing. It's just like a nice gesture. And I guess that's the whole pay it forward idea. How I guess I kind of view commerce of relationships. It's like, just do nice things for people. You can go out of your way to do something nice for someone. Don't expect anything in return because you don't need anything in return. But then maybe you do something nice for this person, and then maybe one day that will come back to you in some way, shape, or form. You know, someone will do something nice for you. And that's over, you know, just life and stuff. People have gone out of their way to just help me and like not expected anything in return, you know. And I'm always like, it's so, especially me living in like this mobile situation too. It's like when someone gives me a place to stay or like helps me out with this or that, if my rig breaks down, and, you know, I'll like offer them, you know, money or something I can do in return, and they're like, no, it's good, man, you know, don't worry about it. And it's always so very touching and such a beautiful thing. And then so having those things happen to me, it's like, oh, I should be doing this for other people too, you know. And then it's kind of like a big circle, you know. So yeah, it's just being yeah, and I don't feel like, so I guess to round out, to receive, like you can't expect things to come to you if you're not outputting something as well, you know. You can't expect the world to come to you, all these things to come to you, if you're not doing those things as well for other folks, you know. So that's the whole give without expectation thing, is just like, yeah, just do a nice thing for someone, and like that's it, you know. There's no keeping score, there's no worrying about, you know, oh, they're gonna pay me back or owe me or whatever. It's just like, yeah, it's cool, man, like I helped you out, and then maybe someone will help me out down the road. And if not, it's fine, you know, because now you have the sense of, I did a cool thing for this person, and you know, that made them happy, and maybe that made you feel happy, and we all go on with life, and that's it.
Yeah, the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdly, that there was something that really struck me. Like quite a long time ago, I remember I stayed at a friend's house. I think I guess we went out somewhere the night before. I can't remember what we did, but so my dad would always give me lifts to and from things, probably more generously than I deserved, you know, like parties and things later at night or whatever, and when I was sort of a teenager and that. And so I was kind of used to getting lifts to places. Not that I took it for granted, I guess, I hope not, but you know, I was used to people kind of being willing to do that. So like I quite often just drive people around. I guess I've just picked up that habit. If people want to lift somewhere, if it's not too far out of my way, I'll just do it. And I remember I went to a friend's house, and I had to get the train home, and the station was like half hour, 35-minute walk, and it was a bit of a rainy day. And I said to him, "Do you mind just dropping me there?" Not trying to be lazy. It's just like I just don't really, you know. And I know I would have dropped him there, but he didn't want to. He didn't. He was just kind of like, "No, you can walk." Like he didn't mean it in a mean way. He was just like, "No, like why don't you just walk?" You know, because he just didn't. I guess he just didn't. And I know he had quite a difficult. So I think he had sort of a kind of fairly difficult relationship with one or both of his parents. I can't remember. And it kind of, I guess it goes to show, and again, he's a great guy. It's just that clearly he approaches things a bit differently based on what maybe he's been given. You know, like I said, there's been people where I've given them lifts to places and they're like, "What? You give me a lift?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not that." Like, I just don't see it as a big of a deal. And this isn't me trying to preach that I'm some like saintly figure. Like loads of people are like this, you know. It's just then also a lot of people aren't, you know. I just found that to be really interesting. It really struck me weirdly. It's only a little thing, but like it really struck me because like he, you know, his reason for not giving me a lift was just like because he didn't want to give me a lift. It wasn't like he wasn't like malicious about it, you know. And I just thought that was a really interesting, like we're quite similar people all in all, but like that was a weird difference that I really picked up on. And I guess it goes to show if you pay it forward, then maybe that person will pay it forward as well, you know. So
correct, yeah. And that's the thing, it's like you pay it forward to this person, it doesn't mean that they'll pay it back to you. They'll pay it on to someone else, and then so on, and it continues on, and then someone helps you out down the road. And yeah, it's just like a big circle, you know, like and just trying to be a part of that circle. And yeah, there are times to be selfish, and of course, you know, like, and I don't mean that in a sense to be like rude or malicious or anything like that, you know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if you know, if you can help someone out, you know, and it's, you know, not gonna inconvenience you or hurt you in any way, shape, or form, yeah, you know, help someone out, you know, because, you know, doing nice things is super cool.
Yeah, there's that whole I assume you guys have the same kind of thing where like you know, they have the guys doing the trolley in car parks for like supermarkets. They have guys who are going to collect the trolleys and put them back in the thing, and there's that whole like it's meant to be like a sort of social experiment as to how moral you are as to whether you take the trolley back. And I've always find that an interesting like.
So have you ever seen cart narcs on YouTube?
I've heard of it. Do they go and I can guess the concept, but go on.
Yes, so it's this social experiment. So there's this guy, he's in California. It's fucking hilarious too. Definitely check it out. But basically he goes to supermarkets and he'll like wait for someone to not take their cart back, or like put it in the cart corral or something like that. And like someone will just leave their cart like way in the back of the lot or like throw it somewhere. And then he goes up to them, and he is this kind of like really goofy, quirky persona too. And he'll like ask, "Oh, like what?" He's like, "Oh, I'm like with the cart narcs, the cart police," or something like that. And he'll throw like a magnet of like, "Oh, I'm lazy," like on the back of their like vehicle or something like that. And then of course the person gets really, really mad, and it turns into the whole thing. But the whole moral of the story is, well, if you'd just taken 5 5 seconds, because that's usually what it is, 5, 10, 15 seconds to just put your thing here, like this wouldn't be happening to you, you know. And a lot of the videos are hilarious. Like people like get so mad too. That's the other thing. Like these people get so freaking mad that this guy is just like calling them out on that, and it's just super funny. It's really really funny. Dude. Definitely check it out.
There's a similar thing in the UK. It's quite an old show called Balls of Steel. I don't think they do it anymore. Where like I can't remember exactly what the guy would do, but I think what he would do is he'd go into a shop and he wouldn't steal anything, but he would like put on an item of clothing, like his own whatever it is, and run out the shop, you know, as if he'd stolen it. And then the game was like, can he get away without obviously, you know, I think that's what it was. I can't remember exactly. I was in the supermarket the other day and I encountered the worst security guard of my life. Like I remember my friend, I bought a drink, like it was only like £1. I bought it and just walked off, and then my friend was still getting some stuff in the shop. So I sort of circled back round. And then my friend bought his drink, and as I was walking out, obviously the guard didn't see me buy my drink. So he's walking, he went, "Did you buy that, mate?" And I went, "Yeah." And then just walked off. And he just kind of went, "Okay." I was like, I could have walked out with anything. And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
I guess he's just way too trusting. I feel like trusting is not it's not what aspiring security guards maybe should have. It just made me laugh. I was like, yeah. So I mean, obviously we caught up like I think it was the best part of a year ago. I can't remember exactly when. I can't remember what it was. Like for this, obviously I saw you on tour. What do you feel like has maybe changed in your life since, minus, you know, tours and things? Anything new? Are you in the same place geographically speaking, or no?
Where was I last time we talked? I don't remember.
Good question. It looks the same from here, but
yeah, I mean, I guess from the inside it looks the same. Was I? When was that?
It would have been like early summer, I think, last year.
Early summer. I was probably in Colorado. I think.
That rings a bell. Yeah.
Okay, I was probably in Del Norte, Colorado, at my friend's house. But no, I'm not. I'm in Reno, Nevada right now. So it's like Reno's pretty much on the border of northern Nevada, northern California, like right around there. Lake Tahoe is like the closest major geographical feature. Sierra Nevada mountains as well. It's nice here, like high deserty kind of vibes. So,
what's the main difference between sort of where you were living and where you are now?
I mean, I guess as far as what's changed and stuff.
I literally just went between Colorado and Nevada. I'm a
right
clueless Brit. I know nothing about. I know roughly where they are. That's about it.
Yeah. Geographically, so they're both deserty kind of regions, arid kind of regions. Kind of similar in certain ways. Del Norte's a bit higher though. And I guess actually they're pretty kind of similar. I haven't spent a lot of time in Reno or Nevada at all. But it's aside from like where they are in the country, it's like actually kind of similar. There's like lots of big pine forests next to mountains, higher elevation, dry climate, lots of sun, similar temperatures. It's like a little warmer here than it is in Del Norte, but yeah, honestly, kind of similar.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I feel like you probably saw, you got a taste of the weather. It was pretty vile here, the weather, when you guys were here. And it's not really got much better, to be honest. Like the clock's changing. It's been nice, but
yeah. It's been crazy over here too. I've been in California for the past month or so, and we've been getting hit with like lots of rain and storms and snow. Tahoe, like it's a lake mountain area about 30 minutes from where I am now. Like literally got 20 feet of snow over the course of a couple days, which was like if you look up pictures online, there's literally houses of snow on top of houses. Like up there, it was like lots of crazy storms and rain. There's been like a shit ton of flooding and like not a lot of sun and like all kinds of wild stuff. But I think all the storms are behind us now, finally, as of like last week. It's been like crazy for like 2-3 months.
Yeah, I feel like that. Isn't that how they catch the guys like growing cannabis in the attic when there's no snow? Isn't that how they catch them? Like with the you imagine some guys just got a mega farm, just burns like a whole house worth of snow off the top. Like,
that would make sense. Yeah, if the roofs are hot. Yeah,
I think that's the way they. Yeah. There's a guy that started just like cycling around, loitering, I think is the word. Around near where I live. That's like, just go away, stop. You go like he's starting trying to, he's just like trying to sell it on like just on the edge of my road. I'm like, I guess, is it legal where you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's not recreationally legal in the United States, but in most of the Western states it's recreational and, you know, completely legal. So you can
cool.
I can walk down the street and buy it at a store, you know.
That's crazy. I don't know if the UK is going that way. I feel like we're kind of a bit behind on that. I feel like without getting all political, I feel like it probably, given out the harm that alcohol causes, and we're still allowed to drink ridiculous amounts of that. I feel like, and you hear about certain benefits of it, so I kind of think like, I don't know why it's illegal over here. Really, I think most of the younger population, are obviously in favour of it being legal, probably, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, sorry. Going back to what I was saying about your last year or so, how do you feel like you've changed much in the last year or so since we spoke?
It's a good question. I'm not sure, and I don't mean that to say that to dodge the question at all. It's just we've been so busy with just like band stuff and touring and all that stuff for the past year and a half. Like it's been pretty much nonstop with like tours and, okay, we have a month off. Let's like record these new songs, do these music videos, and then right back out on tour. And then, okay, let's do a couple more songs. Let's do this, let's do that. And up until we got back from the last tour, we returned home in early February, was the first time I've had to like sit down and chill out in like a year and a half for like an extended period of time, and like reflect on stuff. So I feel like I'm maybe still kind of in that period phase of mind with this time off to like reflect. And, you know, since I'm not in go mode, even though I'm about to resume that mode with this with the new album, which actually I'm already kind of in that mode right now, because we've been writing and getting a lot of that stuff done recently. But no, I don't know if a whole lot's changed, but I think that's a good thing, because I've been doing what I've been trying to do, you know, and that's just work on the band, work on music, and just develop that stuff. You know, living in the trailer's been fun. I have had thoughts recently of like going back to like a normal, more domestic life, like over the past couple months or so, just because I've been like traveling for like 7 years now. So I guess that's the only probably major change or thought in my train of mind, just because doing this it's super fun and I love it. I wouldn't have traded any of these experiences for the world. But when you do it for 7 years, it's like, okay, maybe I'd like to have a house or like a place where I can always return to, you know, and not have to worry about, okay, where am I going next week? Because that's kind of where I am right now. Like I'm parked in front of a friend's house in Reno, but it's like, okay, where I can't stay here forever, you know, or very long, you know, this is a very short-term situation. But while I try to plan my routes as best as I can and as far out as I can, sometimes there's naturally some flying by the seat of your pants involved in this kind of life. And after 7 years of that, sometimes it gets kind of stressful, because it's like, man, I would just like to have my stuff all set up and have a home base and just not have to worry about going anywhere or having to move and stuff like that. But at the same time, probably after a year of that, I might get tired of that and want to go back out and do it again. So I don't know. That's just recent thoughts I've been having about life and the way I live and all that stuff.
That's interesting, actually, because I from memory, without literally watching the conversation back, I think I actually asked something about, you know, conventional living and whether you'd ever be tempted, and maybe that, I can't remember exactly what you said, but maybe that's something that has changed somewhat if you're kind of thinking about
maybe, yeah. Like when I started doing this, I told myself, it's like, all right, I'll do this for as long as I'm supposed to do it, as long as, you know, it feels right, until I'm directed somewhere else in life, you know. And for now, like I'm definitely still supposed to be here doing this, and I probably will be doing it for still some more time. But yeah, like, you know, I guess that's the thing about life too, is you always got to be open to where life may direct you. Can't resist it, can't resist changes, can't resist, you know, what life may put in your way, even if it's unexpected. You know, you got to be adaptable, you know, flexible. You got to be able to flow. What's the Bruce Lee quote? Flow like water.
Yeah.
be water, or the
Yeah.
water becomes the cup. Be water, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
So yeah.
I love Bruce Lee, but I also love that bit
Yeah.
in the Tarantino movie when he gets thrown
Mhm.
against a car with by
Mhm.
Brad Pitt. It just fully
Yeah.
kills, you know, the
Yeah.
because like he's a very like he's a brilliant figure, but then I just love the portrayal of him in that. Have you seen that movie? The
Which one was that?
what's it called? Hollywood. So not Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is that what it's called?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have not seen that actually.
Oh, it's a good. Oh, I don't think I spoiled too. I haven't really. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a cool moment where Bruce Lee is in it and he fights someone, and it's a good movie actually.
Oh, nice.
So I think
Cool.
Tarantino says it's his best movie, and like I think
Oh, wow.
everyone else is like, you sure? But yeah, he's I do love. It's funny. I can definitely resonate with the life telling you to do stuff. Like I remember I think I can't remember when we'd spoken. I had a band and then I sort of quit the band, and I've sort of ummed and ahed about it for ages, going back and forth. And I even sort of considered. Well, I sort of talked to them again briefly, and I thought like, nah, life's kind of told me already that working with them doesn't work. You know, I think in my head I was like, no, actually, although I didn't think of it in these terms, I was like, going back to the old situation would be kind of somewhat going against the grain. I feel like a sort of grain of life in that sense. So I just had to kind of close that door.
Yeah.
I could definitely see myself. I'd love to live somewhere in the sort of south/west of the US, or like try it for a few months, because I'm so fed up with the weather here. It's so crap.
Yeah. It sucks over there. I don't think I can ever live there because there's not enough sun.
Yeah, I remember looking up like how much sunlight like a few places in Texas and like California can get, and it's literally like twice what we get. And it's funny because like obviously, you know, I half would expect you to maybe go, oh well, it gets a bit boring, but I guess, but obviously not. If it's sunny, it's nice, isn't it? It's just obvious, I guess.
It's just good for like your mood too, and it's like my mood, like living this way especially, is very attached to the weather. So like it's for like the past month or two that I've been in California, it's been raining every single day. Not a lot of sun, just rain, 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 rain. And when you live in a very, very small, what's the square footage of this place? 7 by 16. It's like 80 square foot room box. It's like, and it's raining outside, and you know, you can't really go anywhere without getting wet. It's like kind of a bummer. So it's, but when it's sunny and nice out all day, you know, it's like, oh, well, at least the sun's out. It's dry, you know, just hang out outside and enjoy, feel the sun's rays, you know, energizing you. But, it's nice having the rain sometimes too, you know, having that moodiness. Sometimes all sun all the time gets kind of boring too, I will say. And if you're in a desert area and you do get that storm that rolls through, it's like it's really nice, like, because it's like a just change in everything, and very moody. It gets moody for a second. And also like the desert, right after it rains, it has this like fresh smell to it as well. That's like really cool, like right after it rains, and it's just a very nice thing.
Yeah, that's something when you say that's a smell that I've never in my life experienced, because I've never lived near a desert. I've been in a desert on holiday. I guess I went to Egypt once. Like it's about as close as I've been. So it's weird that that's a whole smell that I've never never encountered.
Yeah.
There's something about rain on like freshly cut grass, and if it's raining, that smell is really good. I don't know what it is about that. I think I would miss the greenery of the UK. I get the impression there's less of it. Obviously, probably what you've seen being city centre, you've probably not seen the more tranquil kind of Lord of the Rings-esque style parts of the country, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, I guess a thing about the desert is a lot of the deserty areas over here. Yes, there's like the barren areas, but a lot of the desert areas over here there's forests and like lots of lushness as well. Like the desert is actually a very, very alive place. Aside from being arid, lots of areas in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah have incredible like forests and like lush vegetation areas like right in the middle of the desert too. So yeah, it's not all just sand and sun and rocks and stuff like that. There is lots of green in the desert as well, and that's why I kind of think it's like one of the most like beautiful environments and landscapes, because it's such it is very harsh, but at the same time it's so full of life and vibrance, and I just find that really fascinating.
No, it's making me want to move even more now. Like,
Yeah.
particularly here, like there's something about Birmingham that just like it's a bit. I suppose if you're a bit further south, it's a slightly. It doesn't make much difference, but it is a bit warmer. It's really nice where my parents live. It's like middle of the countryside. It is a bit like Lord of the Ringsy in terms of your, your backdrop. But so yeah, I mean, we've covered quite a lot of stuff. I had a dilemma that I wanted to sort of pose to you. For I guess it's something that, although it applies to me personally, I'm sure there are a lot of people in this sort of situation where I'm kind of at a place where, as a musician, I know I want to write music and I know I want to create. I want to be creative in writing music. I kind of don't just want to be like a hired gun or someone in the back end of that. I really want to write music and pursue that. And my main thing, as you can see, is guitar. Right? I've got that's the main thing I've done, and I love writing metal songs. But I've sort of been drawn a lot to like singing lately and vocals and trying to get into that. And I'm kind of debating, do I just go sort of like monk mode for 6 months and just spend that whole time working on my singing and try and pursue something because I feel like there aren't as many metal singers out there nowadays, or metal vocalists. There just aren't as many full stop. I mean, there's so many metal guitarists out there, right? And it's hard. It's easy to find a metal guitarist. It's a bit harder to find one that writes good songs, but then to find one that can also sing, I was like, that could maybe set me aside from, all of the millions probably of maybe would there be millions of metal guitarists around? I don't know how many there
probably
are. Yeah,
probably.
I'd imagine so.
I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think of that? That kind of dilemma, I guess. 'Cause obviously, if I go and spend 6 months or maybe longer trying to really work on my vocals and then realize it's not for me, how do you weigh that up, do you think? And then obviously this could apply to, there's probably a lot of people in a comparable situation, right? Musicians, creatives, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's just like with guitar or any instrument, it's just like all about just having fun and just enjoying the process. I don't think you don't necessarily have to go into seclusion monk mode and, work on your vocals for 6 months. I think it's something you can still work on. Like this goes to anyone too that's trying to develop a skill. It doesn't have to be music, it can be anything. It's like about just more, I think it's more so about integrating it into your life, in a constructive manner. Because I feel like I guess in my experience, when I try to like, all right, I'm doing this for like 2 months straight and I'm going to get really good at this. Like, here's my goals. I'm doing whatever it takes to get there. It's easy to burn out that way too. Like if you become, it's like this weird thing. Cause like to get where you want to go, you do have to have this, I feel like, sort of obsession with your goal. Like you have to let it be all encompassing. You have to be immersed in it. You have to surrender to it. But at the same time, like finding a balance to these things, like in your everyday, I feel like that's like way more fluid. It may take longer for you to get there, but it can be, I feel like a less stressful process and a more, what's the word? It can be a more, I don't know
longevity?
The right phrasing. The longevity, that's it. Yeah, longevity. It's better for longevity. Because you're not getting like burnout doing this thing like X amount of hours every day. So yeah, I feel like it's being like getting obsessed, being immersed in the process, integrating it into your life. But that being said, there are periods of time where it's like, all right, it's crunch time. Like I gotta, do this, like, or if there's something you feel super, super, super strongly about, then maybe you do have to fully immerse yourself in it, but I feel like that's like the high risk, high reward situation versus like integrating it into your life in a smaller fashion. Like it's something like, okay, I'm going to learn a language for 15 minutes a day, and just do it 15 minutes a day. That's easier to do for 15 minutes every day than, all right, I'm doing this for 3 hours every day, it's like another analogy quote. I forget where it's from. But it's like a lot of people feel the need to like rip the skin off. Like when a snake sheds its skin, like there's a need to like rip the skin off. And it's like, no, it's like actually a slower, gradual process. And it's much less painful if you just let the skin fall off naturally. So I guess that's kind of like it's like the transition. The skin shedding is a transition, you know. And I feel like the transitions in life to integrating skills and things can be much less painful and less stressful if you maybe integrate them into your life in a slower fashion than going balls to the wall right away.
Yeah.
But there's also a time and place for everything. So
I guess it's just judging where you're at in the moment, isn't it? A few months ago, I was like, okay, I need to get into shape a bit. So I was quite strict with like drinking, with diet, exercise. And I think I got about probably 10 weeks in, and then I started to, oh no, it would have been probably less than that. That's a lie. I think I got about, well, probably more like 6 weeks in, and 6 weeks, 2 months-ish. And I wouldn't say I burnt out, but I definitely realized that, okay, I'm not going to sustain this now because I'm just, you know, but I think I needed it in the moment. And now, like, I still exercise regularly, but I'm way more, and I probably still exercise near enough as much as I did, you know, when I was like really grinding at it. So I think sometimes it's, for me, I think it's good almost for like, if you really push at something, you can establish something in your life. And then once you've established it, then I think you can like lay back a bit and go, okay, I've done not the hard work. Like, you don't want to get, what's the word? Not lazy. It's not the word. Complacent about it. But I feel like sometimes those periods of like a month, 6 weeks of just, I'm going to really go for this. I found that benefited me personally, but I think, more than 6 weeks, I think I would have struggled to keep it up really.
Right. Yeah. And I guess, like doing that, like, it's like laying the foundation for like that skill set, you know. It's like you're doing the hard work for that month or 2 or 6 or whatever. It lays the foundation for what you're doing. And maybe you find out it's not sustainable after that. Maybe it does work out, or maybe you find out, okay, I have to just dial it back a little bit, you know, and integrate it into my life in a more sustainable fashion.
Yeah.
But
wicked, man. Well, I mean, that we've kind of covered a whole range of things, from memes to metal, or
wonderful
tagline in there somewhere. I might just have to send you a random meme, just test the water, and just be like, "Is this too far?" And then I'll just not get a response like, "Oh, that was too far."
No, honestly, nothing's really too far. Like, that's like I said, my kind of humor is push it as far as you can go without fucking up.
I feel like a lot of my like metalhead friends, they'll tell a joke and you'll be like, okay, right, well, I know where the bar is now, like, so I feel like it is a metal thing as well. It's another stereotype, I think, is that they definitely have a dark sense of humor, a lot of them, myself included. So I need a question for the next conversation, and an artist you'd like to recommend to the world. And I realise now, actually, because I've had a few repeat guests now. I think you're maybe like the third or fourth person to sort of come back on. And I realise I've not actually like checked if the person has recommended the same artist again. I've just realised now. I don't know if that's happened or not. I'm guessing not. I don't know. So anyway, another question for the next guest, and then an artist that you may or may not have already recommended, if you can remember.
Okay. So I'll start with the artist. I know I didn't recommend them last time. I can't remember who I recommended, but it wasn't these guys. There's a band called Invent Animate. They just put out a new album called Heaven or, I don't know if you're familiar with them at all. But they're really fucking sick band, and the new album they just put out is like really phenomenal. I've been listening to it like a lot since it came out. So if you're into heavy music, metalcore, it's fucking top-notch stuff there. So that's my artist recommendation. And as far as a question, I guess we were talking a lot about humor stuff today, so we'll keep it like a humor related. What makes you laugh the most in this world?
Oh, that's a good one. It's hopefully we'll judge what the next person's like as to how well, if they say something that just does not gel with my sense of humor at all, I'm like, cool.
Anyway, moving on.
I've got like 4 or 5 like funny, like disgusting memes ready. Okay. I guess. I'll just stand up and go to the blackboard and just like cross loads of stuff off.
Nope.
I'll just like cross one thing and tick another thing, and come back like, okay, we're doing column B. Wicked, man. If you have anything you want to promote as well to the world, then go ahead.
Just my band Enterprise Earth, because that involved. That's pretty much my life. So yeah, just keep an eye out for new music from us. We are recording a new album very, very soon, and hopefully have some new songs out very, very soon as well. So keep an eye out for new things and happenings from us.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.